Welcome back to Property Play. I'm your host, Elena Saraditas. Today, I have my favorite lawyer with me, Jonathan Cohen.
Only lawyer, yes.
And today, we're going to talk about assignment sales because Jonathan's also known as the assignment sale king.
Or just assignment king for short.
Assignment king. Okay, we'll call you that from now on.
Listen,
So I have the assignment king with me right now.
I do other transactions about assignments. Some people think I only do assignments. I actually do non-assignments as well.
But we're going to start with the first question being, what is an assignment sale?
All right.
And dumb it down because we want everyone to be able to digest this.
Very simple. You go to a sales office. You go to buy real estate on a contract. You leave there with this contract, agreement to purchase and sale. You bought a contract, which gives you the right to purchase, let's say, a condo unit, a freehold house, and you decide that you're going to flip it because you're going to make money. Your life has changed. You can't close or you don't want to close, whatever being it is, and you're going to sell that contract. It's you literally putting that contract up for sale, somebody else coming, bidding on that contract, buying your contract, and now the original seller, the builder, says, I consent to this. I allow you, new buyer, to take over the contract, and they buy your contract and become you and close the deal for you.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of moving parts.
It is, especially if you're making money on that contract or you're losing money on that contract, because now all of a sudden there's going to be another closing between the new buyer and the old buyer, and we got to figure out who's paying who what and when, and that is very, very important.
So are there a lot of deals to be found on assignment sales right now?
Only about 10 gazillion of them, last I heard, on Toronto. So in most cases, the builder developer says, you can't list on the MLS, you can't list on social media, you can't list on Facebook or Kijiji or Craigslist, if that's a thing. So you can't put this out there in advertisement. So people go on private groups, they do in their networking clubs and realtors, and they say, hey, I got an exciting opportunity. I got somebody who wants to sell a contract, DM me. And you network basically in the underground to find a new buyer. And it's an exciting process. But it's one thing, when it's a hot market, and let's say there's 10 people bidding for this very desirable assignment contract because this building is sold out and nobody wants to sell their unit, versus all of a sudden, hey, there's 20 units available for sale. Everybody wants to get out. Everybody's offering incentives. I have had people message me on a $600,000-$700,000 place. They're ready to forgo 150,000, 200,000, and they're like, "Wow, that sounds like a great deal." I tell them, you still have to do the math on this. No matter how much they're offering you, no matter how much they're supposedly losing, does that place make sense for you? You have to do your math.
You also have to keep in mind if the property they purchased it at 700,000, let's say, but the property is 500 square feet and they're willing to lose $100,000. That's still $600,000. Will the property appraise for $600,000? So then you run into another issue. Like, it's not as simple as they gave up 100. Was the 100 enough to give up for this to still be a good deal? Or is it not a good deal yet?
And this is where some of those deals also kibosh, not just on the appraised value, but also, okay, I'm ready to forgo 100,000, but I only have a $20,000 deposit out there with the builder developer. Well, you owe me 80. When am I going to get that 80? Oh, I'm only going to get it on final closing. What happens if that seller doesn't come up with that 80,000? That's going to be an issue. So this is where on these assignments, you have to be sure, number one, like you were saying, can you close on this thing? Is it appraised right? And number two, can everybody pay everybody on time as need be? On any real estate transaction, the reality is you're going to go and buy a contract on an assignment versus buying a resale property. You should know that you can afford it. You should have a good mortgage person in place doing your math. Can you afford it? Will you receive a mortgage for X amount of dollars? And then, like you're saying, will the property actually appraise for that value?
So let's start with, if you were a seller, what advice would you give a seller on an assignment sale?
So a seller on an assignment deal goes like this. Is this somebody that is thinking about buying to sell in the future, or has already bought the contract?
They bought the unit.
They bought the unit. You need to go in with realistic expectations. Go in expecting that you're not going to sell and that you're probably going to have to close. And how are you going to close? Are you going to have the funds for a down payment? Can you get your mortgage? Be prepared to close this thing, to sit on it. Maybe you're going to live there. Maybe you're going to rent it out and then sell in the future. Otherwise, you are going to go ahead and regardless, and you're saying, I'm going to try my best, get the right person into place. Trying to sell it on your own is not like any real estate transaction. As we know, you think you're going to make more money because you're saying, oh, I'm not going to have to pay a real estate commission. Inevitably, they end up getting way less even after the commission. And it takes way more time because they don't have a professional. So find the professional realtor who can work with you, understands new construction condos, understands how new construction sales work, and help you find that buyer. That's 90% right there. If you don't have the right professional helping you, you're already dead in the water.
So then, because let's go buyer route.
Yeah.
How would you approach an assignment if you were a buyer?
So I would be approaching it as a buyer, like somebody that is really hungry and goes to the Mandarin buffet and it's half price Saturday night. It's ready to all you can eat and just be ready to go. So come hungry, come prepared, know how much you're gonna be able to spend, be ready to say, hey, you know what? Even if I have a budget at this amount, if every increment I go up, so every 20,000, every 50,000 I go up, all of a sudden I'm getting that much more property. It could be very, very worth it. So keep a very open mind. Don't narrow yourself. And you may be able to get a much bigger, much better property, a better location at relatively less money, dollar per square foot, because you were smart about it versus trying to limit yourself. So don't limit yourself on a price point or on a specific building. Keep an open mind. Lots of opportunities.
What should buyers beware of with assignment sales?
Buyer beware is, we talked about having the right professional as a realtor, have the right professional as a lawyer working with you on that assignment buy. Make sure that there's a lawyer review condition in there. If you're a buyer or a seller and you're going to go and enter into a condition into a deal to purchase an assignment contract, make sure that you have a lawyer review clause in there. Then make sure your lawyer understands real estate, understands assignments, doesn't do real estate as a hobby. They're not a litigation lawyer, a family law lawyer, a personal injury lawyer that's in court all the time, and will get to it whenever they can get to it. It's somebody who has to understand assignments so they can walk you through it properly, prepare for you conditions and clauses to protect you, help you go in with eyes wide open, and not either brush you off and say, yeah, it looks fine, go ahead, or no, it looks scary to me, get out of the deal. You know, make sure you actually have a right professional who's guiding you. That's also 90% of the work right there.
Can we talk a little bit about HST? And during an assignment sale, what happens with that?
Oh, HST.
Well, first
Let's talk about the two main components.
Well, first we should discuss why is HST important in pre-construction?
Yeah.
Because in resale, we don't see it.
Yeah.
So like, why is it there in new construction first? And then we'll talk about when a seller is trying to assign the property, what happens?
So let's go in just real estate 101, 10-second briefing. So HST is always applicable in real estate. There's a misconception out there. HST actually always applies unless you're exempt. One of the exemptions is a resale used property that is not recently been constructed or recently renovated. So people sell their primary residence they've lived in for 10 years. HST does not apply because it's an exempted property because it's a used resale property. When a builder sells you a new construction condo for $500,000, they tell you it's $500 all in. Don't worry about the HST. But really what happens when you get the bill, they pull the 13% HST out of that $500 and they are charging HST. It's just you're paying $500 all in. You don't care as a buyer. But out of that $500, the seller, the developer builder, is remitting the 13% out of your money. But they also know that the government is going to rebate back about $24,000 because there's either it's going to be your primary residence, you're buying to live there yourself or an immediate family member, or you're going to rent it out as a long-term rental. The builder developer says, as long as you're living there yourself or your immediate family member, then what happens is you're eligible for that $24,000. You're going to give us that $24,000. Instead of you, buyer, getting it, we sold it to you for $500 all in. So we know 24 is coming back. You just sign these paperwork. We'll go get the $24,000 and Bob's your uncle. If there's any other reason besides living there for primary residence, you're buying it as an investment to long-term rental, you're going to flip it shortly, you're not going to be eligible for that rebate as far as the builder is concerned. They're going to charge you that HST rebate amount because they want that 24 in their pocket regardless, about 24. So what they'll do is they'll charge it to you on closing, and then the buyer has to go apply for it back from CRA. That's one component of the HST that the builder is aware of. The second component is outside of the builder is when you sell on an assignment contract. Let's say you bought the contract from the builder for $500,000. You go flip it for $600 on assignment. You made $100,000. Well, CRA comes back and says, you know what? You made 100,000 in profit. We want our take on that too. So there's HST on that 100,000. So now you have to be careful when you're talking with your realtor and your lawyer. You should have a lawyer review clause. If I'm the buyer, I'm going to look, is that 100,000 profit, is HST included in there? Or am I paying HST on top of that 100,000? There's a section on that assignment clause. It says HST included in or in addition to. That's a $13,000 decision on that equation. So there is real estate, especially new construction assignments. There are lots of tax ramifications, including HST. This is where you have to have a real estate lawyer that understands that and can help pinpoint you so you don't make costly errors and go in with eyes wide open. If you're the buyer of an assignment contract, the builder is going to tell you, because you're buying this secondhand off the original buyer, we're not going to let you get that HST rebate. We're not going to start going through that process because it's an assignment. Give us the money, you go apply for it. So when you're doing your budgeting as a buyer of an assignment, you better be ready to fork over that money on closing and apply for it back. So it's all about budgeting, money, understanding, communication.
But basically, if you're trying to buy an assignment, it could cost a lot of money.
It could cost.
But you could get a really good deal.
I want buyers on assignment to realize something very, very simple. I'll dumb it down to the lowest level of a basic understanding. Somebody went and signed a contract. Once you make a contract with the other person to take over that contract and the builder says, yes, I agree, it's almost like you rubbed out that person's name, the original buyer, and now you wrote in the new buyer. You're taking over somebody's contract. This is 50-page, 100-page contract. Imagine taking over somebody's contract, Elna, and never reading that contract. I just agreed blindly to buy this property and I have no clue what's in there. That's where it gets scary. But if you have your professionals, your realtor, your lawyer acting for you, reviewing for you these contracts, knowing what you're entering into, it's a lot sweeter and safer ride than getting surprises.
Keep in mind, too, that in that contract, it could say that some of the benefits that the original purchaser had does not transfer on assignment.
Bingo, it's in that contract, but it actually spells it out. But nobody on the buyer's side, the new assignee, they never read the contract. They're like, yeah, I know I'm assuming it. Because in new construction, right, it's not just the price. There's adjustments on closing. Sometimes, because the builder's charging extra monies on development charges, hydrometers, whatever it is. And sometimes they're capped. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're eliminated.
Or carry-on registration.
And some costs are known. They actually put in the contract the actual cost. And some they say, we won't know them until final closing. So sometimes on an assignment deal, like new construction, you may not know your full costs until the actual closing. That's new construction.
That was our short glimpse of what is an assignment sale. If you have questions about them or you're trying to sell an assignment right now and don't have a lawyer yet, call Jonathan. He's the one that handles my assignments. He is known as the Assignment King in Toronto. Once again, it's Elena Siraditas with Property Play, and I hope you liked the content today. If you like content like this, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe.